Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Niner Chatter. Super excited to be here with you all tonight, and it's going to be a fun show. Looking forward to chatting with a bunch of different folks that don't usually call in or maybe want to do this, but it'd be great to hear hear your voice and see your faces tonight. Just kind of getting into it, waiting for some folks to join as far as callers. Just a couple of different topics that we could hit on. There was an article that I wrote out today that was discussed a little bit last night as well. Which unit will show the biggest improvement for the 49ers in 2021? That's one of them. For me, I went with the offensive line as being the group that's going to make the biggest improvement for the 49ers going into 2021. A lot of that having to do with the additions of Alex Mack at center. I think that's a huge one. Getting a guy that can really be a quarterback of that offensive line. And on top of that, Mack has been in the league for so long and really doesn't miss much time. So that's going to be huge for that group to have that continuity. So that's the first one. A couple other ones that we'll get into would be which unit among the 49ers you think is going to make you most nervous for 2021, and why the pass rush should be better this season coming forward. Some other topics would be maybe the most crushing losses that you've dealt with as a 49er fan. I've got about 5 of them that I could go through. So I'm going to go ahead, and we've already got a couple folks in the lined up, and I'm going to jump right into this one tonight. We have Ben. Let me go ahead and add him to the stream.
Hi, dude.
And how you doing?
Nice being on for the first time. Definitely appreciate it. So before I start, I've started a new podcast on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio, The Camper Report. So subscribe to that or follow that. And now I'm going to get to my question.
Yes. Go ahead. Yep.
The first one that I wanted to talk about, this isn't as 49ers. Do you think Deshaun Watson will start this year?
As far as Deshaun Watson goes, I'm pretty skeptical about him being in the league this year and playing for Houston, just with everything going on. It doesn't really sound like he's been at camps or anything as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So as far as I would say most likely not going to see any of Deshaun Watson in 2020. That would be my guess on that situation.
Yeah, I would say the Texans, it's in their, Deshaun Watson wants to leave, but I guess he doesn't really have any choice because the Texans, they don't want to trade him now because what are they going to get, like a second and a third or something like that? Nobody wants to trade for him right now.
Yeah, his trade value is really gone down, with everything that's going on, and so I don't foresee anybody really even being interested in. I'd say a second and a third might even be a stretch at this point, just because of everything, the way that situation is. That's a really messy situation, and I don't think teams want to get involved with that if they don't have to.
And I think I think that PFT Pro Football Talk was talking about maybe if they took a lot of his contract for this year, maybe that would raise maybe people would be encouraged to trade for him if they took a lot of his contract for this year, the Texans.
Yeah, that's probably the only way that they're going to be able to get it done. It would be something like that. But even at that point, I just find it hard to, when your quarterback is really looked at as the face of your franchise.
Right.
I just don't see multi-billion-dollar companies, which really these NFL teams are, wanting to bring somebody like Deshaun Watson with everything that's going on. Whether it's true or not, there's a lot of smoke around that, and I don't think they want to put themselves in that situation around their brand.
And I would say, I actually think that they're going to wait because we don't know if he's going to be suspended for this year. So my guess, if they were to trade him this year, my guess would be trade deadline, 7th week or something of NFL, or beginning of the season, whenever they get the ruling.
Yeah, I would agree. If it's going to happen, it's going to probably most likely be later on, and I don't kind of keep going back to it. I just don't think anybody's going to make that move until this situation really clears up. So if there's I think the sooner you see clarity around it, the sooner you might see something change with that whole.
Okay, well, that was my question for you today. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem, Ben. Thank you very much.
And Camper Report. Go ahead.
I was going to say good luck with your camper report. Everybody make sure you're following that as well, because Ben's out there putting out really good content as well.
iHeart and Apple Podcasts. I just got that submitted a few days ago. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And good luck
with
to
that.
you. I hope you have a great show today. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for jumping on.
Peace.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. That's a good one. I'm going to jump now. We got another one on the line. This guy, I think it's about 2 a.m. in the morning out there. So we're going to see if Gavin is able to bring the same funk and power that he normally brings to these calls. So how you doing, Gavin?
What's going on, Jack? How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes. 2:05 here. It is. Yeah. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Stayed up especially to call you and East Bay Chris. Yeah.
That's a diehard 49er fan right there. That's going out of his way to support some folks that are trying to bring him good information. So I really appreciate that, Gavin.
Anytime for you, Jack. I just want to start right there and say that I appreciate all the content that you put out. Right, your breakdowns are fantastic. Right, I absolutely enjoy them. They are thoroughly entertaining and really insightful. Right, you just keep doing those because they're my favorite, especially with Grant as well. When you're doing with Grant as well, they're really good. I mean, and especially the ones on your channel as well. They're fantastic. I just want to start off and say thank you for the great content you put out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. A lot of work goes into those, so it's great to hear when folks really like seeing those. And there'll be another one I think coming out possibly even as early as tomorrow. So keep your eyes tuned for that. Okay.
What I want to talk about is Kyle Juszczyk, right? My boy, right? Yep. Now, what do you like most about Kyle Juszczyk?
My favorite part about Kyle Juszczyk is that what he brings is he's so diverse, and you can just do so many things with him. You can line him up as a fullback in the backfield. You can motion him out and have him line up as a tight end. He brings so much versatility to the offense that even when it looks like you're in a 21 personnel for football, terminology, two running backs and one tight end, you can motion him around, and all of a sudden he's lined up as a wide receiver, and so. You're even though you have 21 personnel on the field, it's like you're in, 12 with two tight ends and a single running back, or maybe even having only one running back out there, and he's out there wide as a wide receiver or in the slot or something like that. So he just brings so much versatility to the passing game, and it really it's nice because you can see that it creates some confusion at times for defenses because they're not sure where he's going, and it really helps with opening things up in the passing game and the running game as well. How about yourself? What do you like most about Kyle?
The run game. When he's on the field, the run game just goes up exponentially. He is a machine, right? And also, if you listen to him on the pitch, right, he's the one cajoling the players. He's like, come on, let's get into him, woo-yee-ah, and all this. And you need that person on the pitch. You mean somebody that's gearing up the team and somebody that you want to follow, you want to run through a wall for. Yeah, that's what I like about him. Plus, he's super intelligent. You could tell that. I mean, I've seen some of his interviews, and he is switched right on. He is. I mean, right. So this sort of leads on to my next question. Do you know how much he's being paid a year at the moment? Because I heard that somebody saying it was 6 mil, somebody was saying it's 3 mil. Now, I'm a dumb Brit, so I don't know where to check. So, how much is he on?
For Kyle Juszczyk, I think this year he's actually pretty cheap. His contract this year, I'll look it up really quick as we're talking. But I think he comes in right around only like $2 million this year. His contract is relatively cheap in the beginning. The way that the people that I'm not super excited about the contract because it does get expensive towards the end. But for this year, for example, his cap hit this year is only going to be at $2.275 million. So it's not even $2.5 million for his cap hit this year. It's going to bump up a little bit in 2022 to $3 million. So he's pretty manageable these first 2 years. It's what the issue with the Kyle Juszczyk contract really starts in 2023 when that number bumps up from the under $3 million to 6.5 in 2023. That's where the folks that are not happy with the contract. That's kind of the timing of it. Would be.
Would you be able to get out of the contract before 2023?
They still have a lot of the cap in 2023, so they still have a couple more years on it after that. So 2023 is really kind of the last year. I don't, because after that the contract goes up even higher than that, and at 2024 If they cut him after 2023, they can actually start saving money. Before that, it's kind of a break even in 2023. So I foresee that we're going to see Kyle Juszczyk in a 49er uniform for the next 3 years. And then
will he be in 2023?
In 2023, he's going to be 30. What's he going to be here? 30. He'll be 32 in 2023. He's going to be 30 this year, 31, 32. So, just kind of looking at the numbers on the contract. Even if they cut him in 2023, they only save 1.3 million against the salary cap. So the number is really small there. Whereas they save almost 5 million against the cap in 2024. So I'd expect him to be a 49er through at least age 32. But even if he's able to maintain his speed and whatnot, and it doesn't drop very much. That's not a bad deal. They signed Trent Williams to the highest paid contract of any left tackle in the history of the NFL, and he's already 33. So, and that's a long contract with him as well. So, hopefully, for the 49er standpoint, the salary cap goes up like people are thinking that it's going to, and that might help them out a little bit as well.
Yeah, but should Kyle Juszczyk be a captain on the side?
Definitely. He's a guy that's I would look to him as being a leader of this team. He's played on. He's been here for the full all of Kyle Shanahan's tenure with the 49ers. He was on the Super Bowl team, and he's proven that he's effective. I would definitely want to think that Kyle Juszczyk should be a guy that would be a captain for the 49ers. And more than anything, I want to see him get the ball more. I want to see them utilize him in the passing game a lot more. I want to see him, coming down with 4 or 5, catches a game. Somewhere, even Tom Rathman, who played with the 49ers back in the late 80s, got the ball a heck of a lot more than what we've seen Kyle Juszczyk receive. So definitely more love for Juszczyk would be a good thing.
Should Kyle Shanahan be held responsible if he doesn't use him in more plays next season?
Would he be irresponsible for not using him?
Yeah,
I would say so. That's something that we've talked about a lot over, with the roundtables and things. And I know that's something that definitely he should be utilized more often. And maybe that's what's going to happen, because if you watch Trey Lance enough in college, there's a lot of times where he throws a lot of balls to the fullback. His fullback was used quite a bit in their play action game on his play action rollout. So maybe we're going to see, that'll be part of why we're going to see more of him in 2021, fingers crossed.
All right, now that you mentioned Trey, right, how influential will Juice be on Trey's development?
I think he's going to be a big help because of the skills that he has kind of mesh with what it looks like Trey Lance is strong at. He's a good underneath receiver. He's good out of the backfield on play action. And those are all some of the things that Lance does really well, or did really well during his time at North Dakota State. I mean, he threw the ball down the field as well, but having that underneath safety belt or safety blanket is definitely going to be a help for him. And even in another step too, he could even hit Juszczyk down the field for some balls on play action and things like that. So I would expect them to have a good connection. And Juszczyk's really smart, like you mentioned. So maybe he can help kind of mentor him along the way as far as something to look at here and there on some plays.
Yeah. Well, that's about it, really. So, wait. One last question then, right? Should Trey Lance have stayed with Juice instead of going with Kittle to Las Vegas?
Should Trey Lance have stayed back instead of going to Vegas?
Yeah.
You know what? That's a funny one. I go out and have a good time. Go out and enjoy it. Just don't be stupid. Don't get yourself, any kind of problem or anything like that. These guys are young. Let them get out, blow off a little steam, and let's come in August and be ready to rock and roll. But that's a good question.
Right, the very last thing now before I go right in the air. But I don't know if you know right in the air, but Chris is having a really awful fantasy football draft, and he's looking for content creators to jump in with him. So would you be interested in jumping in with him?
I might be perfect for that because since it's the really awful fantasy football, draft,
Yeah.
I might be really good at that because I'm really awful when it comes to fantasy football. So definitely that might be something that heck you guys might watch out if I get in there because I'm
Right, mail his big Chris. Mail him on Discord. Mail him on Discord. Make this happen. Yeah.
Okay, I'll reach out to East Bay. I got him on with him on Twitter and different stuff too. So I'll reach out to him and see what I got to do to get hooked up.
Like, thank you very much, Jack. You're the best, you are, mate. Right?
Yeah. So are you. Hey, thanks for staying up so late and joining, and I really appreciate it, Gavin. You're awesome.
Anything for you, mate. Like I do. You keep up the good work. Right, thank you very much, Jack. Right.
You too. Have a good night.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Gavin is one of the great guys because he jumps on with all of us. He's on with myself. I see him on tonight. I always see him with East Bay. That was a legendary call he had with him a couple weeks ago. I see him on Cone Phone and things like that. So Gavin is just a ball of fire and a lot of fun to talk to. We got another one of our little legends out here of our group that wants to join in next. Let's bring him in. Amin, how you doing tonight?
What's up? I actually DM'd East Bay Chris about that, Gavin, and he's like, I think Gavin wants me to start one, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he does. He was like so confused at first. He was like, well, what are you talking about? Then I had to like show him the text and prove, and he's like, oh, Gavin wants me to start one. Okay. So that's in the works, but yeah.
So
what I want to talk to you about today, it's not really Niners related, but this was a guy that the Niners were going to trade for before another NFC West team swooped in and traded for him. And I heard that there's reports that Jamal Adams hasn't been going to mandatory camps. So, because he wants to get that contract extension. So, my first question is, do you think the Seahawks will give him that contract extension? And if they don't give him that contract extension, and he asks for a trade, do you think the Niners can trade for him and give him that contract extension that he wants?
I think with Jamal Adams, I think he's a guy when you make that kind of trade like what Seattle did, because they gave up a couple first rounders to acquire him, correct? So I think they're going to eventually do what it takes to probably get him re-signed or give him a new extension, some new money that he's looking for, just because you don't usually give up that much if you're not expecting to give a bat, to keep him. I understand the 49ers kind of did that with Emmanuel Sanders a couple years ago, but that wasn't first round draft picks. Those were, kind of a little bit second, third round picks. I think they were. So it's a little bit different. I think he'll end up in Seattle. If things just fall apart and it gets to the point where they have to trade him, I don't really foresee the Seahawks being willing to make that move within their division. It's kind of similar to when all the talks were going on about Wilson up there being unhappy and wanting to get traded, right? I don't see top level players like that getting traded within your division unless you're gonna really be willing to overpay. That's the only way that I see something like that coming down.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you on that one. It would be nice to see Jamal Adams for the Niners, but then that contract, we had to give him a contract extension, and we also had to pay Fred Warner, so I don't think that's going to work out. And also, like you said, we don't even have first rounders, so the Seahawks to trade for in our division, we're going to have to give them way, way more than what the Seahawks gave for Jamal Adams originally. So I just don't see it happening. But it was interesting to me because I was like, he's not even going to the camps and he wants that contract extension. I don't know if they're going to be able to pay him. And he's probably going to want a lot. He's like, he reminds me of one of those guys like Jalen Ramsey, where Jalen Ramsey wasn't happy in Jacksonville. He wanted that contract extension. And then he demanded a trade. He's gone, right? And I understand that Jalen Ramsey wasn't on a good he wasn't on a good team. But Jalen Ramsey also, like, I deserve to get my money. And I feel like Jamal Adams has that same thing where, like, I want my money. And you have to give me a good enough contract. And then I'll play for you well. You have to give me my money first, and it has to be at least like $50 million plus. Like, how Jalen Ramsey is, so I'm pretty sure he's gonna do the same exact thing. And if they don't get that done, then he's probably gonna leave, or he's gonna ask.
Yeah, and I don't really know if Jamal Adams, how much he'd fit in with what the 49ers need as far as in the secondary. I know they need some help out there, but I don't see him being a guy that helps with what they need. They really need a guy that can play more of the free safety role. He can play, who can play both, but also play free safety, kind of like, because that's what made Tarvarius Moore so valuable to him before his injury was his ability to play kind of deep and up in the box and kind of all over the field. So that's the main thing for me.
Yep, and didn't you say that you wrote an article about which position group is going to take the biggest step?
I did. Yeah, so I wrote that today. For me, I put down that my thought is that it's the position group that's going to make the biggest jump is going to be the offensive line. It was really interesting as I was putting stuff together and getting ready to write that. I actually found out that the 49ers gave up fewer sacks this year, had a lower sack percentage, I should say. Although they gave up 3 more sacks in 2020 than they did in 2019, the percentage of sacks allowed was actually lower. They gave up 6.9% of pass attempts in 2019 was a sack, and it was only 6.4 this year. So it actually went down. So, things, they actually were better, I think, than we realized. It's just that there was so much other stuff that was going on that caused problems, and you figure, they had 2 quarterbacks that they got hurt because of their poor play. And adding Alex Mack and Aaron Banks to this group is going to be huge, I think, for them in 2021.
Yep, I could see it, but the only problem that I still have on that offensive line is McGlinchey. Even though we know what happened on Saturday, what I said about my all-time offensive line, but it's just that my only issue with McGlinchey is that he's gonna go up against guys like J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones is coming back, and like the defensive lines in the other division, like even like Seattle is a pretty underrated defensive line because they have Carlos Dunlap, and he actually played pretty well for them last year. But that McGlinchey spot is still killing me, man, because McGlinchey isn't a pass blocker. And the thing is, he's going to go up against J.J. Watt, and he gets thrown his butt on pass plays all the time. And J.J. Watt's a completely different animal. I know at his age he's not like as good as he used to be, but he's still a pretty good player. And that right tackle spot is the only thing that's like holding me back from saying the offensive line. My position group that I think is going to take a huge leap is the linebacker core. Because Fred Warner played absolutely outstanding last year. But another guy who got outshadowed by him was Dre Greenlaw. And Dre Greenlaw played pretty good his rookie season. He played pretty good last season. And last year, people actually started talking about Fred Warner as like this amazing linebacker, and people started to recognize Fred Warner. And I feel like this year, Dre Greenlaw is also going to take that step up. That people are going to start recognizing Dre Greenlaw as a good linebacker in the NFL. And I feel like that the linebacker group could have. I feel like personally they have the potential to be like Bowman and Willis, but I'm not saying they're going to be as good. Okay, because I know if I'm going to say that, people are going to be like, "What?" Like I'm not going to say they're going to be as good. But they had the potential to be, if not similar or better than that linebacker group, because they both have that potential. And I would say Fred Warner is easily the best linebacker in the league right now. And Dre Greenlaw has a lot of potential. So I feel like that position group is going to take the biggest step up next year.
Oh, did we lose him?
What?
Oh, we lost you for a minute. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We lost you for a minute.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, we lost you for a minute, but you were going on about the linebackers, and I agree. I think they both of those guys have the ability to be top. There's a good possibility for that to be a heck of a combo, right? Like almost like a Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis kind of combination. Like I think you might have mentioned that. So it's going to be fun to watch those two. I think Greenlaw's a much better linebacker than a lot of people around the league realize, and but be fun to watch him step up in 2021 and take it to the next level.
Yep, and my last question, because I know there might be other callers like Waruna and whatnot. My last thing is, do you think the Niners would trade Trey Lance for Aaron Rodgers? Like, not just Trey Lance himself, because Aaron Rodgers, if I remember correctly, is still not happy with the organization, and he wants out. So do you think the Niners already gave a lot for Trey Lance? Do you think they're going to trade for Trey Lance? I'm not saying only give up Trey Lance. Would you think they're going to give up Trey Lance and some other assets to acquire Aaron Rodgers? Because they wanted Aaron Rodgers before the draft. So do you think that's a possibility that they could trade Trey Lance for Aaron Rodgers? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think they're locked in now that they've brought in Lance and they have Lance on the roster. I think they're pretty locked in that that's the direction that they're going to go. Because when you look at not just from on the field perspective, I feel that their direction is that they realize they can get the rest of the team really built around the quarterback now, because the salary cap situation. Even though the salary cap's going to go up, they have a quarterback on a contract, and Ben Meyerson wrote a really nice article on this today about for all 49ers about the having a rookie on a quarterback on that rookie wage scale is just so important for the building of your team. So they're kind of in a position right now for the next 3, 4, 5 years where they can really take advantage of having Trey Lance and a cheap quarterback to keep the Trent Williams deal, the Kyle Juszczyk deal that's going to bump up to like $6.5 million, like I was just talking about with Gavin. Get a new contract in there for Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, and there's a lot of money that's going to be spent to kind of keep the core of this team around, and so having that young quarterback is going to help them do that, I think.
So I don't think they're gonna trade for Aaron Rodgers, but I feel like they should trade for Aaron Rodgers. Trey Lance is young. Let's look at the Rams, right? They have a pretty good roster, and they lost some key pieces in the offseason, like John Johnson and some of those guys, like their corners. But they're in win now mode. They're not looking for like the future. And like let's look at like how the Buffalo Bills developed Josh Allen. Josh Allen in the first 2 seasons didn't look impressive. He didn't. This season he broke out. And as Niners fans, we're really tough on our quarterback. But besides that point, right? Our team right now is also built for win now mode because we have guys like Nick Bosa. George Kittle's also getting pretty old. Like the offensive line, like Trent Williams and Alex Mack, they're also not super young. They're like 32 plus. So our offensive line, our entire team is in win now mode. So if you go and get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I feel like if the Niners get Aaron Rodgers, they're gonna win the Super Bowl this year. And if everybody's healthy and we have Aaron Rodgers on the team, we're gonna win the Super Bowl this year. Because our team is really, really good. It's just that our injuries are holding us back. And I feel like with Aaron Rodgers, the addition of Aaron Rodgers, our team's gonna win now mode. They're already in win now mode, and they're gonna win Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers. And how old is Aaron Rodgers? Like maybe like 30, 32, I think, right?
Yeah, he's right around there. I think he might be a little bit higher than that. He's getting up there in age.
He at least has most quarterbacks play until they're 40 or at least 40 to 38 or range, 38 to 40 range. At least in the even guys like Peyton Manning, they played till they were at least 38 if I remember correctly. So guys play till 38, 39, 40. And even Brady's doing it longer than that. So even if you trade for Aaron Rodgers, you still have at least 3 or 4, 5 good years out of him, productive years out of him, where you have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl. Where if you have Trey Lance, you have a not as good of a chance as winning the Super Bowl. And the Niners fans won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that was okay. The route you're kind of talking about is similar to the article that Varuna wrote today, right? That we got to see from him on his debut article with all 49ers, right? Where the Rams have done that, where they went all in on their quarterback. They went all in. They realized that they were in a window. The thing that was holding them back was the play of the quarterback. And while they were okay with Goff, they had an opportunity to go out and get a guy that they thought was going to be better in Matthew Stafford. And so they went ahead and they made the big move to go get him. And that's a move that we've seen the Rams do all 4 years that Sean McVay's been there, and part of the reason why they've always been at the top of the NFC, right? One of the teams battling for an NFC, at least battling for a spot in the playoffs. So from that standpoint, what you're saying that makes sense would be going after Aaron Rodgers, because he probably, I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers than Trey Lance as my quarterback in 2021. I don't think there's anybody that given those two names to start for them would say that they want Trey Lance, just from the standpoint that you know what you're getting with Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yep, and I would love to see it, honestly, because the Rams have a way better chance now with Matthew Stafford in the center than what they have with Jared Goff, because Jared Goff's plays limit them where you have Matthew Stafford who can sling the ball 70-plus yards, and Aaron Rodgers also gives you that same X factor. And if Trey Lance doesn't play good year 1 and year 2, then look at year 3. Guys like Alex Mack and guys like Trent Williams are getting older, they're more injury prone. Like guys like Eric Armstead are also getting older. Oh, Rodgers already 38. Damn.
Yeah.
But still, you still have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl, than you have Trey Lance. And he'll at least give you at least 2 productive years where you have a way, way better chance. You have at least with Aaron Rodgers, I would say I feel strong and comfortably saying that you have a 70% chance of winning the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. At least making it to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. 70% chance with that defense and everybody healthy. With Kyle Shanahan, yes, you have a 70% chance of winning the Super Bowl. So it's a smart move.
Yeah, I think you would have I would say you'd have that opportunity to get to play against Tampa Bay for the right to go to the Super Bowl, because that's where it's going to go through. I don't think that's a move that's going to happen. I don't see I don't foresee Green Bay being willing to trade Aaron Rodgers to anybody in the NFC. And I'm not sure where he'd go over if he's over in the NFC, but if in a perfect world, if there was some way that the 49ers could bring in Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's definitely going to make him a better team.
And they would definitely contend against the Buccaneers if they got Aaron Rodgers. With Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, no way. They would easily lose to the Buccaneers because Brady has that playoff experience, but so does Aaron Rodgers. And there's nobody better than Brady, but Aaron Rodgers with that team, with that defense. We've seen what we could do to Aaron Rodgers, and with Aaron Rodgers on the team, that would be amazing. And I feel like we would have a way, way better chance of winning the Super Bowl. So if we trade for Aaron Rodgers, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. So who knows? We'll see what happens. I don't think it'll happen, but who knows, right? Yeah. As Swan Song says down here, Green Bay would probably trade him to Denver first, and I'd agree with him on that. That would be definitely somewhere that they'd rather send him off. So yeah. Anything else that you wanted to throw out there real quick before we move on?
I'm good. I know Waruna wants to come on. I know he's waiting. So let the new SI rider come on to the show. So congrats. I just want to say before I go, congrats, Waruna. You deserve it, man. You're going to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you have a good night. I mean, I really appreciate you jumping on.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. See you later.
All right. Have a good night. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, hit on a thing on a topic right there. Well, Runa, he's been one of another, like Gavin. Gavin's been a guy who's always in the chat rooms and has been a big follower for all of us and big help. And it's been great to have him out there. And well, Runa is somebody that's been super supportive as well. And he came out today with a really nice article for All 49ers Sports Illustrated, talking about what Kyle Shanahan can learn from Bruce Arians and also in a way Sean McVay from the Rams. Those are a couple of guys that I really agree with and that he could learn from. And Waruna's, if you haven't seen Waruna's piece yet over at All 49ers, make sure you go over and check it out. He's got a piece over there that was really worth the time to read. I actually retweeted it today as well. So make sure you guys take the time to go over and check that out. And speaking of Waruna, let's bring him on. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for your kind words.
No, that you're. I really enjoyed reading your article. It's awesome because having you on the show now a couple of times and hearing you talk. When I was reading through that article today, it was almost like I was listening to you talk because I know what your voice sounds like, so I can hear your thoughts and I can hear you talking through that whole article, and it was awesome. And I really liked what you put together there. So, congratulations on that, and hopefully.
Thank you again. So. I wanted to ask something. This might be kind of a controversial.
Okay, right on.
Is 49ers a team that is belong to upper class, meaning Raiders? I have talked to a couple of Raider fans. They're saying that team, it's not us. It's not our type. So there is one other example that I came across was on another kind of a 49er related show. There was one guy was saying, now these 49er season ticket holders, they are the ones who are putting money to this team and etc. So they want Jimmy to play. So we don't care what these other people say, right? So it was kind of the attitude. I was like stunned at the moment. Oh, is that so? So our opinions doesn't matter. Okay, fine. Thank you. So I had that question because San Francisco is probably kind of a city, has a different charisma, different characters on its own. Now it's in Santa Clara. So what do you think on that?
Yeah, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're asking me if the 49er fans are kind of driven by more of a money, higher income level. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's an interesting one because that goes back to even back into the 80s. They've always been. It all goes back, I think, to the whole finesse 49ers of the 80s and all this kind of stuff. And if you go back and look, there was a time Randy Cross, and he was an offensive lineman for the 49ers, and he was frustrated after a game because there wasn't they weren't getting the kind of crowd noise and things that they wanted. And he called them the 49er fans a bunch of wine drinking, cheese eating, basically what he said, a bunch of wine and cheese snobs in the stands, not passionate for their team like other teams. I think that's changed. I really do. I do understand it's definitely a lot harder to go to a game now because unless you have season tickets, and it's hard to get a ticket for the games. And when you look at the resale sites, you're looking at $100, $200 for a ticket plus fees and everything. So
the Green Bay tickets I just checked. I think a good ticket would be right now it's like $800.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way it is throughout everywhere. And even the Raiders fans, like you're talking about how they have their, persona or what have you. You look at what the tickets are right now, like in Vegas now, it's extremely expensive in Vegas to go to a game. I have a friend that's a Raider fan, and we just got together last night and we were talking about really similar to what you were just saying, how expensive it's going to be for somebody to go to a game in Las Vegas. So, it's interesting. I think there's all kinds of people that are going to these games, all kinds of folks that are 49er fans. You've got the people that are making tons of money, in the Bay Area, and you've got guys who are like myself who aren't, we're getting by, but we're not on the upper part of the pay in the Bay Area that are 49er fans. And I was a season ticket holder until about 2003 before I got out, and it wasn't because of the cost of the tickets that I stopped going. It was just the amount of time that the investment, and I started having a family, and and I had some work stuff that was going on at that time that I wasn't able to go to all the games like I could before. So it just kind of changed a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna give us 49er fans though a benefit of the doubt and say we're not drinking our wine and tea.
I just had to ask that question because wanted to know the history and everything, so related because especially because I have experience back in my country now. I think it's fair to say, especially if you take like some high schools and the towns related to those, there are some high schools, they are coming from very backgrounds, what you call with very poverty-stricken backgrounds, but they are performing way better. And then some neighborhoods, they are very rich neighborhoods. So those rivalries are the best because it's not just between, end of the day, it's just a game. It's between two communities. So I just wanted to understand this dynamic between Raiders and 49ers. Is it something more than these two teams? And is it these communities battling each other in terms of this?
I think in a way it's the communities too, right? Because you're close. You have one was in Oakland, the other was in San Francisco, and so there's kind of the battle of the Bay. It's the same thing with baseball. You got the Giants and the A's, and there's a kind of a rivalry there amongst the fans because at least when I was in school, you go to school and you have your friends that are Raider fans, and so you're always razzing them and they're razzing you, and you had the same thing going on with the Giants and the A's throughout high school as well, at least for me. So I think you kind of grew up with it if you're in the Bay Area, so it's kind of natural for us.
Yeah, because other day, Bay Area Bowler was talking about his experience going to a preseason Raider game and how intense it was. So those are nice stories.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I have down. I mentioned like one of the topics like we could discuss is your most crushing losses as a 49er fan, and the fact that you're bringing up the Raiders, and that was actually one of the ones that I wrote down was in 2000 the 49ers were playing against the Raiders. The Niners were they had gone through their down years and they were kind of starting to come back up. Jeff Garcia was quarterback, and they lost to the Raiders at Candlestick 28-34 at the end of the game in overtime, and that was probably one of the most frustrating losses that I've ever experienced. I was walking out of the stadium after that game, almost had a fight, and because somebody bumped into me and he wanted to fight me for some reason, but whatever. And I just remember that was a crazy game because you're in Candlestick Park and you have half the stadium. When the Raiders score, half the stadium is screaming. And when the Niners score, the other half is screaming just because everybody's so. You just have so many people from the Bay Area that are at that game. It was different than even when the Cowboys would come to town back in their great glory days through the 90s. So Yeah, there were some great rivalries with those Raiders, and it definitely got intense. And the preseason game, that was I wasn't there. That was later on, but that was a pretty bad situation, which is why they hadn't done that for a while.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Anything else that you had on your mind that you wanted to throw out there?
No, that question was something bugged my mind for some time. So I was just waiting for the right person and right situation to ask it.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate you calling in, and it's always fun chatting with you, Aruna. I appreciate the support you give me, and again, really nice job on your article today. So hopefully there's more to come. I'd love to hear your voice and hear what you from your perspective. It's different from everybody else, so that's great.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Have a good one. All right. Aruna's, like I said, that was a really nice article that I saw from him today. And let's look over here in the comment section before I go on. Mike asks, hey, Jack, how many touchdowns do we need off Gallman this season? That's going to be an interesting one because, without Jeff Wilson Jr., the 49ers have lost. I should leave the question up there while I'm talking about it. Well, without Jeff Wilson, the 49ers have lost 10 rushing touchdowns that they had with their team last year. So that's going to have to be picked up in a couple of different ways. I'm not going to say that Gallman needs to pick up all 10 of those because you got to expect that some of those would have been touchdowns by Raheem Mostert if he had stayed healthy throughout 2020, and a couple of those were really the only two guys. So I'm going to say that we need to see Gallman probably pick up 5 or 6 touchdowns this year, maybe even 8, with a couple more of those coming from Mostert. And I think you can expect that you're going to be getting some touchdowns too from Trey Sermon, and for sure Elijah Mitchell might even pick up a couple. Those are both guys that are going to really help it out. So for Gallman, I'm going to say we want to see at least 6 out of him. If we can see the 49ers get 6 touchdowns out of Wayne Gallman, I think they're on the right track with kind of filling the gap of the loss of Jeff Wilson Jr. for this season. So that's where I'd fall with that one. If you guys want to jump in and join, that's great. I'll give you the link one more time. Outside of that, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the other topics that we could discuss that I've been thinking about. I know I talked about the biggest improvement group for 2021. The other one would be, what are some of what unit would make you the most nervous? Which is the one you're most worried about going into 2021? And for me, the one position group more than any that really concerns me heading into this season for the 49ers is their defensive backfield. They just don't have a whole lot back there in terms of experience. I just today happened to see some film out of Seattle where they have both 2 cornerbacks, Ahkello Witherspoon and DJ Reed, who are their starting cornerbacks, and those guys are both guys that were with the 49ers last year. So that's going to be an issue. So I think their defensive backfield is definitely an area to be nervous about. You have Jason Verrett as well, who's been dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the course of his career. Even at the safety spot, as good as Jaquiski Tartt is, and he's really, really good, it's just, he's been injured quite a bit as well, and he just can't count on him. And with it being a 17-game schedule, that defensive backfield is really concerning to me. So that's something that I'll be talking more about in the days to come as well, with some of the articles and stuff. But looks like we got a legend that wants to join in. His future is really bright, so he's got his shades on over here. How's it going, Barry Baller?
Hey, what's up, Jack? How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? You out for a walk?
I'm out for a walk, so if the reception's bad or anything, don't feel bad booting me off.
Okay, no problem. You're good right now.
Sweet. Hey, Jack, I was looking at these NFC West rosters, and I want to know if you've kind of formulated some rankings or how. I mean, we know it's a tough division. We know it's a really good division. But who do you see kind of at the top, and who do you think is projected to be at the bottom? I'm interested to hear your NFC West rankings. We're early, but where do you think things stand right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna with my rankings, I would put the Arizona Cardinals at the bottom. They're the ones that I put them at the bottom of the list. You know, I know that they made some nice deals for guys that are big name guys, J.J. Watt and AJ Green and stuff like that. And those would be great selections if this was 2015. But, you know, in 2021, those are both aging players who are still productive, but I don't foresee them being the game changers that they used to be for Arizona. So I put Arizona at the bottom, and then it's really a dogfight for the top. And I would say, you know, I'd probably go with, I talked about this with Ben last night, and I'd probably go with Seattle at number 1, excuse me. And a lot of that's just because of the quarterback, and I do like some of the guys they've added. I do think Witherspoon's going to be a nice addition to them up there with the way that they use their quarterbacks. I think he's going to fit in nice.
And I like Gerald Everett. I always liked Gerald Everett, and now he's up in Seattle too, so they got a nice weapon at tight end. Yes,
that's a really good point. Everett's a guy who's given the 49ers fits in his career at times. So I could see that being a problem for him. And then, you know, Kerry Hyder's up there as well, and it'll be interesting to see if Hyder can duplicate his performance this year. You know, he left when he was in Detroit. He had a couple of really good season with Detroit, and then he left in free agency and then struggled as a free agent. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays away from Chris Kocurek, because that's where he's always had his most success was in Detroit and San Francisco playing under Kocurek. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do now in the zone. So I'm going to go Seattle. I'm going to say the 49ers are number 2, and I'm going to put the Rams right there, almost like a 2B, because I really, the Rams with their quarterback upgrade, definitely I think are going to be an upgrade. You know, they don't have great depth, but they have a really good frontline group. So
yeah, you said it right there, because I was looking at some of these rosters, just getting a feel for the depth and who's where, and you nailed it with the Rams, because, you know, they're strong up top, right, with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. They got the receivers, Matt Stafford, but yeah, the depth is a question mark. And so if they fall into some injury issues, I mean, they're a team that could easily be 4th in the division, and that's where the margin between 1 and 4 in this division is so close. All these teams are good. I mean, it's going to be a dogfight for this division.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think those 3 teams are really where the dogfight's going to occur. I think Arizona's going to be a team that's going to be trouble, but I don't see them being more than probably a 9-8 team. You know, but I agree with you. The Rams and the 49ers and St. Louis or Seattle, excuse me, that's going to be a heck of a dogfight between those 3. And if the Rams
I really like Kyler Murray, but from what I've noticed, if you can keep him in the pocket, which is no easy task, but if you can do it, that's your best chance at limiting that offense. Because I watched the game. It was the first game that the Cardinals played against the Rams last year. And the Rams were doing Ebukam. Ebukam's really good at containing mobile quarterbacks in the pocket. That was something I noticed when I was watching Ebukam. And they were containing Kyler Murray. And what I saw was numerous batted balls at the line. Kyler Murray's threw a ball that hit his offensive lineman in the back of the helmet. So this is something, if you can corral Kyler Murray in the pocket, that's the recipe for success.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. And we saw that play out this year, right? We saw that when the 49ers played against them in week 16, I think it was. You saw that where Murray's a really good quarterback if he's able to run around and kind of play a straight ball. But if you force him to play from the pocket, he doesn't get the ball out quickly. He's inaccurate. You know, he struggles. So you've really
he misses reads. It's hard when you're that short to see the receivers down the field when you got 6'4", 6'5" linemen in front of you.
Yeah, and that's you're 100% right on that. I think that's what the biggest thing that causes him trouble is his height. Really limits him if he has to stay in the pocket. And you're right on the Ebukam thing too, because if you watch him, that's really what he does. He doesn't have a lot of moves, but he's one of those guys who can get really good push, and he's so quick that once the quarterback starts to move, he does a really good job of shedding. You know, as a linebacker, he has that really good shedding technique, and he's able to get rid of that guy and chase the quarterback down.
I watched him do it on Lamar Jackson. He's containing. He was in a QB contain. Lamar tried to escape, and Ebukam sheds the block and sacks him. And it's like, well, if you can contain Lamar Jackson, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, I agree with you. We saw that same kind of thing. There was film of him doing that with when he was with the Rams against Patrick Mahomes as well in that big Monday night game that they played against them a couple of years ago with that huge high-scoring game. But he had some really nice plays on Mahomes in that game as well. So
absolutely. Yeah. And then when we're talking pure pass rush, I mean, Bosa's obviously the guy. D Ford, I have no clue what we're going to get from D Ford. But Jack, I'm big. I like Arden Key, and I think I've told you about that before. But so I'm thinking Ebukam on early downs. And then on some pass rushing downs, you mix in Arden Key, because Arden Key's got some really good hands. The way he uses his hands, and sometimes it's like the offensive lineman barely even can touch him.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see Ebukam won't be an early downs guy, because the early downs guy is our Eric Armstead, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to be the guy Ebukam is going to be the guy that allows Armstead to slide inside. Where you're going to see Arden Key and where he's going to be important is he's going to be the guy, I think, who is the rotational piece with Nick Bosa. And so, you know, being able to have a guy like Arden Key who does all those things like you just said, being able to step in when you do have to give Bosa a break, which might be a little bit more often than usual, especially early in the season coming off of that knee injury, would be huge for the 49ers. If Arden Key can continue kind of growing into his role, and especially not having to be a regular guy, but as a rotational piece where he can come in and just go, you know, all out, you know, throw it all up against the wall for 20 or 30 plays a game, you might see a lot more productivity out of him.
Yeah, and he's got more talent around him, because in Oakland, he had no sacks last year. So it's like I'm hyping up this guy who had 0 sacks. But I like him, and I like the way he uses his hands. What about Kevin Givens? What's your opinion on Givens?
I really like Givens. Givens is a really he's an interesting guy because he's undersized, but I think that the fact that he's undersized plays to his advantage a little bit, because he has a good initial burst, and his lack of size kind of allows him to get small and get in between the center and guard, you know, and get into the backfield.
He shoots some of those gaps, whether it's on the run or he squeezes through a pass pro. I mean, I really like Givens too. So that's me, you, Grant, all really like Givens. So we might be onto something here, Jack.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're all kind of in agreement. That might be a problem, but I'm kidding. But no, I think you're right. I think there's a lot to like about that group up front. I think you're going to see Kinlaw improve. I think you're going to see, you know, DJ Jones coming back and throwing in Givens. They have a lot of good rotational pieces along that defensive line. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that group progress as the year goes on. And since I got you on here, we're talking defensive line. Swan Song says, what defensive tackle is going to line up next to Bosa? Will it be Armstead or Kinlaw? That's going to be, I'm pretty sure that's going to be Kinlaw.
I agree.
Because if they keep things the way they were in 2019, it's going to it'll be Kinlaw. Armstead will be on the other side with Ebukam rushing over there. But, you know, they move guys around. They'll line up Kinlaw out wide every once in a while too, or they do all kinds of different things with their fronts. But I would say most often, if they get into their like NASCAR package, I guess you'd want to call it their third down, we're going to come after you package, you're going to see Ebukam and Armstead, and then over the other side it'll be Kinlaw and Bosa most of the time. So that's what I'm thinking.
Hey, Jack, thanks for taking my call. You know, I love your show and I love what you've been doing. So keep up the work, keep up the content, and I'll let you have a great rest of your night.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words, and thanks for jumping on with me tonight. I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your walk. It looks like it's beautiful out there.
It is. Yeah, it's a nice one. All right, Jack, take it easy.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. All right. So let's go over here. I answered the question from Swan. let's see. There was a couple other ones over here. Harold asks, should the 49ers be concerned if Richard Sherman lands with the Rams? And I'm going to say no. I mean, the 49ers, if Richard Sherman lands inside the NFC West, and I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm excited about going up against Richard Sherman. I'm hoping that he goes to a team that's going to put, because what happens with Richard Sherman, if he's in man coverage, you've got a matchup problem over there. Otherwise, that there's going to be a lot of your offense is going to be facing a lot of zone, and then if Richard Sherman's on the field, you're going to beat him in man coverage, or at least that's what you expect, because he should be able to get beat in man coverage by either Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. And if they're going to play zone, which most likely is going to happen, you have your zone beaters that you're going to dial up and make the plays that way. So if Sherman ends up with the Rams or another team in the NFC West, that'd be great for the 49ers, I think. His better days are behind him. He's still a good player, but not somebody that you're really going to be worried about at this point. Gavin asked me earlier what my knowledge is like on boxing. I'm terrible with boxing nowadays. If we go back to the 90s and late 80s and those days, maybe even into the early 2000s with Mike Tyson and that whole crew, that was when I've watched a lot more of boxing. I haven't really watched boxing very much in the last 5-10 years, especially. So terrible on boxing. You want to talk about some old school WWF, WWE? Let's do that too, because I was a big fan of WWE and still every once in a while check that out. On Lombardi's Twitter, he mentions that the 49ers only have 4.9 cap, but over the cap it says 17 million. I think I know where he's going with this, because the 49ers still don't have 3 of their draft picks signed. So over the cap is going to show about 17 million in cap space for the 49ers, but they don't have Trey Lance signed yet. They don't have Trey Sermon signed yet, so they don't have their 2 Treys locked up, and they also don't have Ambry Thomas signed. So those 3 guys, once those 3 guys sign, they're roughly about $10 million against the salary cap for 2021. So I don't think it's as low as 4 million, but when it all shakes out, but it's definitely in like that 4 to 7 million right now, because they got to get those guys signed. So when you're looking at it, that was one of the things with the whole the whole the receiver out of Jones out of Atlanta, with all that talk about trading for him, and that was one of the reasons why I wasn't sure about making that move, because it was going to require the 49ers. They could bring it on, but they're going to have to make some other moves to free up that space once they got their rookie signed. So I wasn't expecting that to happen. I was hopeful for it, but I wasn't necessarily expecting it. One more comment over here real quick. Harold mentions that for the 49ers, Justin School cleared waivers and will now revert back to the 49ers injured reserve. Yep, that was a move that got a lot of talk last week, because I think that happened on Friday, and when that whole move, that was all a procedural thing. I think the 49ers looked around and they said, you know what, we like Justin School, we like what he brings to our team. He's injured though, and nobody else is going to be bringing him on and want to carry him through 2021. So we can put him on injured reserve, let him clear waivers, and we can bring him back, and he's still part of our organization. But now he doesn't count against our 90-man roster. So he's still a 49er, but he's not taking a spot on our roster. So it all worked out well for him. It was really a procedural move to release him. So I'm glad to see that he's back, because he's definitely a piece that could be a good depth spot in 2022, possibly, if he comes back and he's fully healthy. So that was good to see. Definitely over in the wrestling section, now that I mentioned it, Gavin's asking who my favorite wrestler is, and he wants to talk some wrestling with me next week. I'd love to do that. I'll talk wrestling with you. Like I said, you go back to the early 2000s, through 2000 to 2010, definitely a big wrestling guy. So that's big in the whole remember the Y2J with Chris Jericho and that whole crew that they had. What was it? They had like something something X. I can't remember what it was. Degeneration X, I think they called it. What was out there? The Rock and Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Those guys were all at the top of their game at that point. So yeah, this definitely talks some wrestling next week for sure, Gavin, if you call in. Did you see Kittle's latest comment on Trey? He says he loves that Trey takes chances. Yeah, I saw that. Definitely saw that. And you're seeing a lot of change and a lot of different chatter around Trey Lance in the last few days. If you listen to the podcast that Kyle Shanahan did recently, there was definitely a change. Back at the draft time when they first drafted Lance, he made it sound like Lance wasn't going to have a chance to even compete for the starting job. And then it became now after all their the OTAs are done. It sounds like Lance is going to be in there for a battle to possibly win the job. So I hope that it's a competition, an open competition between Lance and Garoppolo, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun because it's not something that we've seen before around the 49ers for a long time. And Lance brings some really good things to the table in terms of being able to spread the ball all around the field and take advantage of some areas that the 49ers haven't been able to take advantage of defenses throughout the first 4 years of the Kyle Shanahan regime, especially on the edges, running the ball or even throwing the ball down the field outside the number. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this offense kind of plays out. Yeah. So Graham asks, I'm going to jump off here in just a minute because I know East Bay Chris is going to be jumping on and doing his call-in show right about now, and I want to make sure that we get he gets as many folks over there as possible. Graham says Chris Sims was on the Niners Nation podcast and was critical of Trey Lance's action, arm swings like a vertical Russian twist. Did you notice this, and did McAvoy bring this up too? I didn't see that at all, really. I didn't see anything odd about his throwing release. As far as that kind of stuff, the issue that I saw with Trey Lance's release, and some other folks that brought it up as well, is that he has a tendency when he gets into the pocket, he kind of bounces, and then when he goes to throw, there's times when his hips will kind of sink a little bit, and so instead of just having and so what's happening is that's going on is it does two things. One, it slows down his release because that sinking of his hips is taking time for the ball to get out of his hands. So that's one issue that it does. And the other thing that sinking of the hips does is it changes your eye level. So that any kind of a changing of the eye level makes it tougher for your accuracy because instead of seeing, you're here this is what your eyes see, and so you kind of have an idea where that ball needs to be placed. If your hips sink and all of a sudden they're down here really quick as you're in the middle of throwing, all of a sudden your release point and everything to get the ball where you want it to go has changed. So that's the issue that I see with Lance. I don't see any kind of like crazy arm motion, Russian twist or anything like that. I just think that he's got to stay on a level plane. And as far as your question on is that something that Coach McAvoy has brought up? Now, Coach McAvoy, his whole thing with Trey was, and I understand this, was getting his full foot in the ground. And the reason for getting that full foot in the ground is to have a solid base so that you're able to stay at that same level throughout the whole throw through the throwing motion. So that's the piece that I have there. Let's see if there was anything else. Harold brings up the wrestling again. Watch old clips of Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen, Hulk Hogan. Oh, well, that's the thing, Harold. I'm old. I grew up. Hulk Hogan was the guy for me, right? He was my childhood hero. Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Junkyard Dog, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. All those guys from that early era were the originals for me. I go, when you talk about The Rock, that's more me as an adult, and relating to the younger crowd that probably didn't see those legends in action in the original time. So anyway, let's definitely pick up and do. I know it's the Niner Chatter 49er, but maybe we'll make it the Niner Chatter / wrestling show for next week to have have fun and get more of you guys out there. Chances Rodgers plays on Green Bay this year, and if he doesn't, 49ers could easily be 3-0 to start the season. Agree. I think the 49ers have a really good chance of starting off the year hot. That Detroit game is probably the one that scares me the most, just because it's a new coach and you don't know what's going to happen. And those early games are always that first week is always an odd week in the NFL, and weird stuff happens. So, you put the fact that it's a week one is kind of always a crapshoot, and they have a new head coach, and you're not quite sure what you're going to get out of the Lions. That's the 1 week that scares me. I think week 2 and 3, the 49ers are going to be in a much better situation. So it'll be fun for that. And Mike says, thanks, Jack, for spending time with us. Thank you guys. Thank everybody that joined tonight. Thank you to everyone that called in. Those of you that are active in the comment section, I really appreciate that as well. And I would love it if you guys jump in and join the call and call in as well, because really what I want to do, and I want to have you guys have your voices heard, and I like to give you guys a platform to come on and speak your 49er knowledge and your 49er questions, and really show your passion for the team. And I think that's something that's going to probably be growing when we get closer to the season. I know we're kind of in a downtime right now, but when we start doing these on Tuesday night after 49er games, I'm really excited for that time period of this show. So I really appreciate everybody for joining. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Just passed 700 this week, and I need to get to 1,000 as soon as I can. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the little notification signal, so every time I go live, it gives you a notification on your mobile device as well. And otherwise, just go out and have a great rest of your evening on Tuesday night, and have a great week. And I really look forward to coming back and chatting with all of you again next Tuesday. And keep your eyes peeled to my channel as well, because there'll probably be at least one more breakdown of Javon Kinlaw this week. And then also Hammer and Nails will be coming up on Thursday at 6:30. Last week it didn't go off because I had a family dinner for my son who turned 12. But Hammer and Nails will definitely be on this Thursday at 6:30, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Have a great night, everybody.